That's it. You've drawn my hand. You all think I'm so negative.
Boo! You stink!
Is there a movie you don't hate, Mark? Mark seems to hate every movie ever made. Mark, I hate you. You should just kill you. I'm negative? Me? Negative? Don't make me laugh. You want to see me be positive for once about a movie I like? Well then, Curious George is the most wholesome movie I've ever seen and I love it. I watched this movie a bunch as a little kid. I could probably recite it word for word at the time, I loved everything about it. But the older I got, the more I started to forget that it was even a thing and moved on with my life. This was until I was doing work for my next big video, and as I was sitting there I thought, God damn it, I want to watch Curious George. So that's what I did. I was super worried about going into it again. You know when you love something as a kid and you end up watching it as an adult and are baffled that you ever liked to begin with, and realize it doesn't hold up as well? Yeah, I really didn't want this happening between me and Curious George. But I bit the bullet and decided to rewatch it for the first time in over a decade, and you know what? I love it, it's wonderful, and I've since then rewatched it 3 more times.
The monkey!
I was initially going to make a video on this movie like 2 years ago, but it was just one of those passing things I never really committed to. I think I decided to make the Diary of a Wimpy Kid video instead and just never got back around to it. And yeah, I think that decision definitely paid off in the end. But y'all better show your love for George too, by God. I get in these weird periods where I get obsessed with some random piece of media and start to get really deep into it. It usually happens with a lot of my YouTube video topics, considering you have to spend weeks researching, writing, and gathering footage revolving around this stuff. So it's almost like I'm convincing myself subliminally that I'm a super hardcore fan of it, and has led me to many regrettable purchases such as this giant Jimmy Neutron piloting a mech figure that I now own. But I feel my obsession is completely justified this time, because Curious George is so goddamn sweet and charming and likable and... Let's just get into it. Curious George is a 2D animated movie by Universal Pictures, released back in 2006. It got generally favorable reviews, but didn't do too well at the box office. Probably because, again, it's a 2D animated movie released in 2006. CG was the way to go. 2D just came off as outdated and old, with it being the only theatrical animated movie that year to be 2D. That was the year we got Cars, Over the Hedge, Monster House, and who could forget the classic Barnyard. So I guess I don't entirely blame people for not being interested in Curious George. But screw those movies because this one beats them all by a mile. This film was based off the long-running book series of the same name. There were charming but quite simple books which made it a struggle to try and find a plot that warranted filling up an entire movie. So instead it's more of an origin story, showing how George met with the man in the yellow hat and how they became best friends. Ted works at a failing museum, and in order to raise attendance with a brand new exhibit, he heads to Africa to find this Giga monkey statue. But on the way he runs into this little monkey called George, who follows him home, to where we suddenly see all the issues that start to arise with this, as well as him never actually managing to find the lost statue. I really love the plot for this movie. It's so simple and basic but in a good way. You got the man in the yellow hat, give him a monkey. That's it, that's the plot, and it's amazing, I love it. Movies with simple plots like this live or die in the characters, and whether or not you're able to relate to them or find enjoyment from their interactions with each other. And oh boy, does this movie do a really good job at making you care about George. The opening is just so sad. We see how lonely he is in the jungle all by himself, not being accepted by the others around him. So when you see him grow attached to the man in the yellow hat and start following him around, it's just, it melts my cold, icy heart. I think an issue I have with a lot of modern movies is that they give you no time to grow attached to the characters before expecting you to suddenly care about them or their issues. Like, I recently saw this Netflix musical called Arlo the Alligator Boy, and I really did not like it. The entire cast meet each other within the span of like 5 minutes, and by the next scene they all have a sad goodbye moment, but we never actually saw them interact, so no, this is Curious George time. I promised I'd be positive. For you, George.
He is your monkey. Now what do you say?
That is so fucking cute. Dude, George is just a top tier monkey. It goes Donkey Kong, Diddy Kong, Donkey Neutron, then Curious George. I'm sorry, I don't make the rules. He's just so fucking likable. The animators here did an amazing job at making you care about this guy because his character is completely sold in the expressions considering he doesn't talk. He just looks so happy all the time, which is so sweet. But that makes it all the worse when he's sad because then it's like, show me who fucking hurt you, George, I'll kick his teeth in. There's not even that much in terms of an antagonist in the film. The most we get is the museum owner's son who wants the thing to be turned into a parking lot. But not even he has much presence in the movie. It's mostly just about George and the man. I will give that guy a shout out though for being voiced by the Alvin and the Chipmunks legend David Cross.
Why does my father like you best? It's not fair. I've got the ponytail.
Hey, what do you think of this? The relationship just sells the whole movie. I love how non-threatening the whole thing is. Like in a typical movie, you'd expect it to start with the man being bothered by George, but through George's persistence, the man learns to love him. But no, he likes George from the start. The opposite happens, if anything, with him slowly realizing that having a monkey is hard and that he needs to give him up. But it's not even done in a mean way. Again, in a typical movie, this would have went like, "You messed everything up for me, George. I don't want to be your friend any." That's my Will Ferrell impression.
And my final question, why is George curious?
But instead, he's just all chill like, "Yo, I just can't take care of you anymore. You gotta go back home." Will Ferrell just gives such a perfect performance as the man in the yellow hat. It's so good. He has such a soothing, quiet voice, which definitely contrasts with his other roles over the years.
No television for a week. You're fucking high!
This movie works because you just like these two characters. I could sit and watch them interact all day. It's so fucking cute. Everything about this movie is cute. The art style, the character interactions. For a movie animated in only 18 months, this shit is super impressive. The amount of compositing they do to the scenes in this movie is insane. Sometimes it goes a little overboard, like please my eyes are kind of being blinded right now. But it does a good job at making each scene feel unique, and overall the film has a very warm feel to it. Especially through the lighting. Everything emits light in this movie, so we get a lot of nice warm reds and oranges. There's some really nice looking shots here. The colors are also so good. I heard earlier scripts for the film were going to have a darker tone, but I'm glad they didn't go with that. A lighthearted tone doesn't mean a movie is unengaging or bad. It's good in other ways. And that more lighthearted tone means that the backgrounds and character designs can reflect that. The movie is super colorful. The greens are so saturated, the sky is so bright and nice looking. If you've watched this movie before, how could you forget the iconic paint scene? Like, it looks so pretty. If I were to talk about a part of this film that has dated quite a bit, it's the use of CGI. A lot of the backgrounds here are done in 3D, along with most of the vehicles and such, but it still never really bothers me all that much. One, because the compositing does a good job at hiding it for the most part, and two, when it is done it's usually for the purpose of having a nice panning shot, or an overhead view with the camera turning around so I can understand and appreciate why it was done. This movie really has it all. Great characters, great animation, great designs, great music. Oh yeah, that's right, the music! Dude, you have no idea how many times I've listened to this soundtrack on repeat since I watched this film again. It hits hard. Jack Johnson, the Chad, went all out on this OST. Right out of the gate, the movie starts with it and it's like bang, upside down, fucking heavy hitter immediately, gets you right in the mood for a silly little monkey movie. But then the song ends and you're like, oh god, I thought this was Curious George, I wasn't expecting to cry at this film. Jack Johnson worked very closely with the filmmakers, and because of that was able to write his music around the scenes they were in, to properly go in time and correlate with what's happening on screen. And I'll take that over generic popular pop music of the year any day of the week. Every song in this movie slaps. Upside Down, Broken, Talk of the Town. Please, just go and listen to the music. You know what? I know I'm doing a repeat of what I complained about at the start of this video, but I just ordered the Curious George OST on vinyl. It's that good.
Upside down, I'll find the things they say just can't be.
And it also fits with the rest of the film because they incorporate a lot of subtle guitar string sounds into the character movement and to increase suspense. It's also clever. I love this movie so much. I don't know, call it nostalgia. No, really, call it nostalgia. I'm very nostalgic towards this movie. It's just so simple and so likable and charming. I would recommend watching it if you ever want a movie that just makes you feel good inside. Apparently Illumination got the rights to make another movie in 2010, but it appears to have went nowhere. Thank God. But I have heard that they're planning on making a brand new live-action CGI hybrid Curious George movie with the acclaimed writer of I Now Pronounce You Chuck and Larry. Please, Universal, just don't. For me. You already perfected Curious George on the first try. Don't try ruin it with a modern adaptation because it's so obvious what it's gonna end up being. It would remove all the charm and good-heartedness from the first film. The relationship between George and the man could never be as strong, since it'll just be some random actor talking to a stuffed George toy so he can be added in post. Just no, stop. You already ruined it with the direct-to-DVD sequel movies. Don't do it again. Why would George need a rocket ship to go back to the fucking jungle? It doesn't make sense. Well, is that positive enough for you? I wasn't expecting to love this movie as much as I did. I went into it fully expecting to just hate it like a lot of the films I watched as a kid. But no, I can safely say Curious George is a genuinely really good movie that I love a lot. With the main reason being that it successfully makes you care about our main two characters and their bond together. Something Mitchell's vs. the Machines couldn't do, I'm sorry.